It's time for cut content. Soul Leveling Season 2 Episode 1 cut content. How the Red Gate incident really happened. Alright, Aninews, give it to me.
Season 2 opens with all the glorious action we could ever want from a solo leveling anime. Sung showed off in more ways than one. His shadow soldiers got to participate in their first ever battle, and Igris styled on his opponent like he was Let Me Solo Her fighting against Millennia.
He did.
With all those amazing scenes filling
Nice
up the
Elden Ring
episode,
reference.
though, it's easy to forget about the overall story behind it. This is something the novel takes its time building up, since it answers questions like, how did this gate become a red gate?
I don't know. I was trying to theorize, like, did the gate realize that Sung Jin-woo is too strong for this gate relative to everyone else's party members? Therefore, the gate recalibrated and increased its strength? I don't think that logic really holds, because if you look at the past season where Sung Jin was going in and clearing simple gates, they didn't turn red.
Why does Sung feel a personal responsibility to help out Song Yi, and what's going on with everyone else in the story? There's quite a bit the novel adds which build upon the story, and that's exactly what I'm gonna talk about here.
Let's go!
Everything the anime left out from the manhwa and web novel. So, if you want to see what else solo leveling has to offer beyond its continuous string of conflicts, stick around because it really does make the world that much more captivating.
Ad break! Before we get started, first, what's it gonna be?
But first, I'm gonna quickly switch gears over to Overlord because today's sponsor, AFK Arena, is doing a crossover with.
I knew it. Of course I knew it. You know how many fucking videos of this guy I've reacted to? Bro, I breathe his content. Of course I know. Go check out the link though. Here is the link to the Overlord and AFK Arena collab. Go click it. Go fucking download it using Mr. Aninews' link. Give him the affiliate money.
Okay, episode 13. You aren't E rank, are you? Covering chapters 46 to 52 from the manhwa and chapters 54 to 62 from the web novel. To start with Sung's preparations for the meeting, there were quite a few things he needed to get done beforehand.
That teacher. She was pretty down bad for Jinwoo too.
He needed to find clothes that actually fit, and he needed to secure money to allow him to buy said clothes. All his previous formal wear now burst at the seams since he was so much bigger. This was a predicament that ended.
Burst at the seams, huh? I bet the ladies would enjoy that if they saw the shirt just rippling, just almost about to like rip apart due to its bulging muscles.
Up solving itself because out of the corner of his eye, Sung had spotted the bank book Jinho gave him. Within it was all the money the two had earned from selling the magic crystals they found during their
A
raids together.
shitload of money.
Sung wasn't sure how much was in it, but he figured he'd be able to go on a shopping spree using it.
Dude, there's probably like a really funny scene here where the cashier is amazed at how much money Jinwoo has. And she's like glazing up like, oh my god, he's so hot and rich. Oh my god.
Wasn't sure how much was in it, but he figured he'd be able to go on a shopping spree using it. It was before he did though that first Sung would review his status. He couldn't help but admire just how lengthy it had become. It wasn't until just yesterday that quite a few of these slots were empty though, so now that they were filled, he felt a great sense of pride and accomplishment. In fact, before when the job class section always listed none, Sung would get frustrated every time he saw it.
Yeah, I mean like shit, when am I gonna get my actual job, right? Like if you play any video game, that's like one of the basic things that you get right after the tutorial.
He knew it didn't actually mean he had no job, but the message he interpreted from it constantly bothered him. It was as if it was making a mockery of who he was before the system. Sung knew this was nothing more than his inferiority complex talking, but it couldn't be helped considering what he'd always had to go through. You see, after years of introducing himself as the E rank, the shame he felt knowing people were always mocking him behind his back really stuck with him even now. Now that he had a really cool job.
Do you think there's like a funny... It doesn't need to be this deep, and I don't think what I'm about to say is even close to what's actually happening. But if we build off of the insecurities of Sung Jin-woo being bullied in the past, of everyone making fun of him, and he holds on to this so much, that's why he's aura farming every episode. The insecurities is now being translated into Jinwoo just aura farming and flexing on everyone. Rather than it just being a spontaneous moment where he looks cool, he's intentionally doing it.
Now that he had a really cool job class though, Sung was completely and utterly satisfied with himself. No longer was he worried about other people's perception of him. No, he was
Okay.
more so intrigued by how people would react to him now.
Oh, really? He wants that. Really? I thought that he didn't give a fuck about any of that. He doesn't seem to be the type of person that wants to flex and see other people's reactions. You know what I mean? Like, I don't think Jinwoo is the type to go to a gym and start fucking flexing at a muscle and look at other people to see if they're looking at him. Him being an attention seeker is something I would have never imagined being an anime only.
To him now. Like, just thinking about Jinho's stunned face when he would finally get to see his shadow army, that was enough to put a massive smile on his face.
Really?
It was this thought which led Sung to think about what his new powers were capable of, going so far as to ponder if he could extract shadows from hunters.
I mean, shit, huh? Like that Kim Chol guy, you know? Like, there's a lot of hunters that already died on that party side. It would be a waste for their corpse to just go by. Should we just let them all die and then arise, all of them? I wanted the bears, right? I thought the arise, right, only worked on like monsters and shit, but if it works on hunters and stuff, like, oh man, the possibilities, oh man.
Obviously, such a situation wasn't one he'd ever want to be in, but the thought of doing so gave him chills. He couldn't even fathom how powerful the shadow of an A or S rank hunter could be.
Yeah, man.
Even if it was only 50% of their original strength, Sung fully believed the presence of one
Only
would
50,
allow him
huh?
to solo high-rank dungeons.
Okay.
So, the only thing preventing him from
Just now, I'm just imagining Sung Jinwoo not helping other people, intentionally just waiting until they die so that he can go and arise them.
committing to the idea fully was the thought of how sinister such an act was. Unless a truly evil hunter showed up
Like Hwang Dong-suk too, right? If we actually battle him and kill him, like arise on his ass.
to give him trouble, Sung wasn't willing to subject anyone to that.
Okay.
No. For now, he knew he'd just have to be satisfied with his shadow monsters.
For
the
now.
level 7 Night Grade Igris was more than powerful enough. Now, in addition to everything Sung had earned from the job quest done.
Oh, I just had a fucking terrible thought. Something very tragic. Something like a trope where in the future, maybe Jinho dies, right? Maybe Jinho does something and he sacrifices himself to save Sung Jinwoo somehow, some way, and he dies. And rather than letting him just pass, we cast Arise on him to get a shadow of Jinho back. I hope that doesn't happen, but like, that would be tragically beautiful.
Dungeon, he had also gained 10 additional ability points. Before, these would have been put right into agility and perception, but now that his shadow skills operated on mana, every single point went into intelligence instead. It was still miles behind strength and the others, but Sung didn't plan on it being that way for long.
We need to pump
That didn't mean
intelligence.
he was going to change the way he fought though, since for now these shadow skills would just be his backup. His dagger was always going to remain as his primary means of combat. It was too much of a waste to throw away everything he'd already put into it so far. Still, Sung was amazed at just how useful his shadow skills were, since that single aspect alone allowing him to extract bosses through it made it so much more incredibly valuable. So, 20 minutes would pass with Sung thinking about his powers, then another 3 after where he would use said powers to help himself get ready faster.
What?
He didn't know yet how best he was going to use Commander's Touch, but at the
The
very
force
least
pull.
he could have it help him retrieve his keys from the kitchen.
This is solo leveling slice of life. I would love to see it. Solo leveling slice of life, straight up.
Now, it was on his way to the bank that Sung couldn't even begin to imagine how much money was in this account. Usually, Jinho shared everything with him, but when it came to money, Jinho didn't talk about it at all.
I think that like the anime is intentionally trying to make Sung Jinwoo look way more cold and ruthless than the source material, right? Because the source material, there's a lot of expressive moments. A lot of times where Jinwoo just actually feels like a regular person, right? I think it's similar to Classroom the Elite anime where they're intentionally trying to make this dude look colder than, you know, before. So like the slice of life moments can't happen. Obviously, like they need to, you know, cut down shit and condense it so that they focus on just the best parts, but slice of life moments being cut out, it's to give him that fucking aura, right? Because if you have the slice of life moments, it's a bit of minus aura.
It was just one of those things that he couldn't be bothered by. Such disregard puts into perspective just how wealthy Jinho is, because when Sung had gone and checked the balance of the account, it was revealed to have over $1 million in it.
Jesus!
In a single week, Sung had earned himself well over $100,000 a day. Each C-rank dungeon had netted him between $150,000 and $200,000 in revenue. The teller would then try to sell Sung on the VIP services the bank offered,
No. Scam. Get out of here.
giving him his first taste of what being a high-ranking hunter felt like.
And again, minus aura right now. You know? You can't give Sung Jin-woo these slice-of-life moments. It takes away from his cool ruthlessness.
It was something he knew he'd have to get used to, because the moment his new rank became public, he would effectively become a celebrity.
Oh.
Another change was the wealth he simply wasn't.
The celebrity status is going to be very interesting. Because in the trailers, there is a moment where I think there's a lot of cameras on Sung Jin-woo as he takes like some sort of podium, right? Almost as if he's giving a speech. I think that definitely has to do with like the reassessment. Because the trailers definitely said that he's going to go back and get tested again to see what his rank really is. Probably going to happen after the Red Gate. Probably going to be S rank at that time, right? He's going to go viral. That's going to be exciting.
Used to, which after a haircut and some splurging at a department store, Sung would come to see why having money was way better than not having money.
Yeah. You can buy clothes and get a haircut. Isn't money nice?
He would then head to the school, reminisce of the time he had these interviews himself, then remember how no one ever showed up for them.
Aww.
It wasn't because his parents were neglectful though, but rather because he simply didn't tell them. Since this was back when his mother was visiting the hospital more frequently, Sung didn't want to burden her with something so trivial.
What a good boy.
The interview went pretty much as we saw, finishing up with the request to help Jinna's friend Song Yi. As soon as Sung heard that she was in E rank, he immediately knew it wouldn't be long before she was either dead or crippled. Such was the fate for those ranked at the bottom.
Better
The
traumatize
dungeon
her.
was simply no place for an E rank. Normally Sung wouldn't have cared at all, but because she was a person he was somewhat acquainted with, he felt a certain responsibility to teach her why the dungeon wasn't for her.
Yeah, it's like it's our sister's friend, right? But like, what if she dies and we arise her? That's all I can think about now. People dying and us using a rise on them. Ooh.
So, when Sung had gone to pick her up to take her to the raid, that's when he saw her circumstances weren't very different from his own. She lived in a place that indicated she wasn't very well off, and that
Poor.
made it clear that she was likely just trying to provide for herself.
Yeah.
This was a reason Sung knew he couldn't judge
It's like the whole beginning of soul leveling, right? Jinwoo was exactly in that position.
her for, since he too did the exact same thing. He had put himself in harm's way just to provide for his family. So, as much as Sung wanted to stop being a hunter back then, he knew he couldn't because his mother's life depended on it. Song Yi's circumstances may not be exactly the same, but she could have her own reasons as to why she needs to keep being a hunter. Either way, Sung was going to show her exactly what awaited her in the dungeon.
It would be cool though if she had a second awakening after the Red Gate, proves everyone wrong, even Jinwoo, and becomes like a higher rank, maybe B, maybe A, and she's like a really successful hunter. I don't think. Who knows? It'd be cool. Is she that important of a character though? They're giving her a lot of scenes.
He framed it as him simply trying to mold her into a better hunter, but in actuality was bringing her just so that she could see the cruel reality of it all. One terrifying instance was more than enough to show the truth. At least that's how it was for him. Now, it was in between all this that Jinho had his own massive scene, one that highlighted the dynamic between him, his brother, his father, and even his cousin.
Oh, what the fuck? Oh, he had a cousin? Are we gonna get cousin leveling? Who is this? Wait, why are we not the cousin, man?
The whole event was an ancestral rites ceremony for his grandfather, something Jinho wasn't particularly interested in.
Okay.
He was tucked away in a corner, bored out of his mind, paying no attention to any of the elites currently present. This was meant to serve as a contrast to Jinho's brother, who the novel paints as one of the most exceptional people there.
Wow.
With perfect grades and numerous successful business ventures, he was the cream of the crop while Jinho just couldn't compare. Luckily, Jinho's cousin Soo-yeon was there to lighten the mood,
Soo-yeon.
making fun of his brother and his stuck-up attitude. Her lighthearted insults weren't something Jinho could get behind though, since if he wanted to get back at his brother, He knew he simply had to beat him.
Yeah, and how are we gonna do that? Have a successful venture in the guild system, right? With Sung Jin-woo. Have her own guild be like legit and basically prove Dad and Big Bro wrong.
That brought into conversation the topic of his plan to become a guild master, something Soo-yeon apparently already knew about.
Oh?
The reason why that is because as an A-rank hunter herself...
A-rank hunter?! What the fuck?
She really didn't want to work for Jinho's...
Glaze! She's intentionally wearing a hat to cover her like hair and face, but these dudes are also down about. Oh my god, is that Soo-young?
brother. It was only natural she become a member of whatever guild the head of the family was forming, but to do so under Jin Sung's leadership, well, let's just say she'd rather die.
Yo, let's have her join our side. Let's do it. Come on, please.
I won't get too deep into what else the two discussed, but just know that this is where her character is actually debuted.
Okay, I wonder if there was like a moment where like Jinho somehow brings up Sung Jin-woo, you know? And Soo-young's like, oh, who is this guy? You got any more pictures of him? Right? just more bullshit like that. But is she, I mean, she clearly didn't get introduced last episode. But I wonder if she's just gonna be skipped entirely.
For the anime, it's likely we'll see her later.
Okay.
Now, there was also a scene where Jinho's dad would reveal his own impressions, highlighting the harsh tutelage under which Jinho and his siblings were brought up under. It could essentially be described as a tiger wanting to raise cubs instead of kittens. Jinho's brother and sister were the cubs, while he unfortunately was seen as the kitten.
Got a sister, huh?
This brings us now to yet another massive
Nah, the kitten will show their fangs one day.
cutscene, one depicting how the Red Gate had become a Red Gate.
Okay.
Long story short, it was pretty much due to professional incompetence. A gate measuring device was found to be acting up, but rather than report and rescind the permits for the 7 gates it recently measured like how the employees who found the device were supposed to, they instead decided to simply ignore it.
So the mechanics of how a gate turns to red gate is still unknown, but there is this meter that judges the anomalies, and that's a good enough signal to say it's going to turn into a red gate. And these monkeys said, nah, not today, I'm just going to ignore it.
The potential trouble it could cause made them feel like they could lose their job over it.
But like, so you are scared that you would lose your job because the machine is telling you that this gate is going to turn to red gate? What is that logic? So you intentionally didn't tell them. Now you're 200% going to get fired. Like, I think if you actually cared about your job, you would tell them what's important. You would tell them, hey, this shit's acting up. You might get a fucking promotion. Be like, wow, good job. You did your due diligence. You really, saved a lot of people there. You get a promotion, but yeah, all right.
Some of those troubles included the additional resources the association would have to spend remeasuring the gates, while the guilds who bought them would get upset that they couldn't do their raids anymore.
That is the pushback. You're already invested, and there'll be complaints. That's fair. That's fair.
Plus, with the additional delay increasing the chances of a dungeon break, all were potential issues that made losing their job seem more and more likely. So, for a job like this where getting in was as hard as passing the bar, just the thought of losing it was enough to make these employees disregard the error.
Okay.
They were well aware.
Yeah, that's a systematic issue, right? That's definitely a systematic issue. This is not the fault of one individual, but rather the system that creates these incentives where people don't want to report because you get pretty much fucked if you do. It's like there's a saying actually. There's a saying called good deeds go unpunished. Good deeds go as what's the saying? It's basically even if you do something well, you're gonna get fucked, right? Whether you do something or you don't do something, you're gonna get fucking fucked. Yeah, no good deed goes unpunished. That's the line.
The consequences could easily cost the lives of the hunters going into these gates, but since nothing was reported in the 2 days since the 7 gates were measured, they figured the remaining 4 left to be completed should be fine as well. That's why the red gate was improperly rated. The initial reading was placed at C, but the faulty nature of the measuring device made such a reading inaccurate. It was more likely this gate was at the B or A rank. The fact a red gate spawned was enough to prove it. It was impossible for red gates to spawn from anything lower than the B rank.
Okay.
That's why Beck was so mad when he got here, because the whole thing was a mistake that easily could have been avoided. I mean, even after the gate turned red and the guild called the association still denied that any mistakes were made.
Always covering their ass. But to us, it's actually a great thing. I think the red gate is perfect. Why? Well, it buys us time against Hwang Dong-suk, right? He's outside right now, waiting. It also gives us way more fun content. We're in there and we got ice elves and shit. It's a whole different, environment. Jinwoo's probably gonna get new soldiers, new powers, level up. It's just a great farm.
They stuck with the conclusion that it was a C rank gate, despite Beck knowing himself that it was higher. So the whole thing just didn't make sense to him. In any case, the last scene left out from the novel was a small side part showing the home life of An. He was living his bachelor life watching the news, listening to reports of an unexplained explosion within the American Hunters Association headquarters.
Okay.
There were rumors that the cause was due to a new rising talent causing friction among the S-ranked hunters.
Oh, Hwang Dong-suk blew it up?
Before An could hear more about it, though, that Sung would call and make his request.
Okay.
An believed this to be Sung showing interest in the White Tiger Guild, so it was only natural he say yes to whatever Sung was asking him for.
Bro got no clue.
If anything, this was a great way to show just how exceptional the guild's training system was. That brings us to when the Red Gate incident begins, but rather than talk about that and stop halfway through, I'll instead do all of it in the next video.
Oh, he doing a separate part?
To finish things up, I just want to talk about some extra scenes with Hwang Dong-soo.
Okay.
So, when him and Woo were in the airport, Hwang had actually tried to recruit Woo to the Scavenger Guild. This was an invitation Woo would never accept because both him and the association knew just how terrible both Hwang Dong-soo and his brother were.
That's right. And Manager Woo, he's too loyal. He's just such a good person, man. His loyalty and dedication towards the main like headmaster, the chairman guy, Go Gun-hee, that guy's sick.
I mean, it was obvious what Dong-suk was doing in the dungeons, but the association could never investigate because Dong-soo was his brother. That being the case, Woo really didn't like how either of them never showed guilt for committing the murders he knew they were responsible for. Now, the other scene involved Woo asking Dong-soo if he wanted to see his brother, but surprisingly Dong-soo said he didn't care for the dead.
You don't give a fuck, right? He genuinely doesn't care. This is not really revenge. Well, it is and it isn't, right? The impression I got is that he don't give a fuck about his little bro. Sorry, his big bro, right? They're not really on good terms at all. They had beef. But it's the fact that his still family died and he's kind of interested to see, okay, which one did it?
He was a bit curious about what happened for the funeral, but as of right now, his only concern was the trash his brother left behind. But yeah, that's pretty much it for this video. It's everything you missed from the events leading up to the Red Gate. I hope what you saw helps you enjoy solo leveling more, and if it did, then leave a like and let me know down in the comments.
Honestly, the slice of life moments and the minus aura moments for Jinwoo, they're so good. I wish we had more slice of life moments. I wish we had that sequence where he went to the, the cashier girl and flexed his fucking, his like, I don't know, his card. They're like, oh my god, so much fucking money. And like the other scenes too with, Jinho's cousin, right? When the hell is she gonna come in? A lot of new characters to be excited for, but, the anime has to be condensed and concise and maybe it'll be handled in the future episodes. Here's a link to Mr. Aninews' channel though. Here's a link. Go give the video a like. Subscribe to the channel if you want. I'll see you guys next time.